turned you with that firearm?
At that point, I thought he was going to try to kill me. You know, I saw he'd already shot into the sergeant's car, so I thought he was just going to kill me. That was it.
And what did you do?
Well, at that point, slammed on my brakes.
Can you tell me, didn't I give you that little car?
Yes.
Oh, good. Will you tell us where here, as best you can recall today, you slammed on your brakes and where you stopped? Stick that thing right in there. And what did you do?
At that point, I jumped out of my seat, opened my door, and I unholstered my weapon to engage him.
And as you engaged him, did you fire your weapon?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Tell us what the defendant is doing now as you're exiting your car and putting your weapon on him. How is he reacting?
As I'm aiming down at him, he's aiming down at me.
Okay. And how's he moving? Can you show us how he's moving?
He was...
Come out here. Oh, that's okay. You don't have to knock that over, but we're done with that. So go ahead, and if I'm a distance down and I'm you, then obviously this is not going to be accurate, but you're shooting. Show us how he's reacting, what the defendant is doing in relationship to you with his gun.
I see him with his gun,
okay,
and he's trying to acquire me in his sights, and I see him like moving around.
Okay. And are you firing at him as this is happening?
And as he's doing that, at that point, I fired my first round.
Okay. And what did he do?
And at that point, after I fired my first round, I saw him kind of duck a little lower, and he's still trying to acquire me in his sights.
Okay. And then what happens?
And at that point, I fired my second round, and then he dropped a little lower.
Okay.
And then at some point, he looked like he might have lost his balance, and then he was down low, and then he hit the ground. And at which point, I fired another round.
Okay. So he actually went down to the ground. You fire another round. Did you think you'd hit him at that time?
Yes, I did.
Did you hit him?
No, I did not.
Okay. What did he do after he went to the ground?
After he went to the ground, he gathered himself, and he started running around the red car and headed towards the driver's side of the red car.
Do you know if you shot another round at that time?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And at that point in time, does the defendant get in his vehicle and flee the area?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Go ahead and take your seat, Detective. Thank you. All right. I know this is tough. We finish. So, the defendant has left. I think you also called out and said that his shorts were blue. You were right about that, were you?
No, I was not.
All right. So the defendant has now left the scene. You observed him. You returned fire on him. Up towards Canner. What's the next thing you do?
At that point, I was headed to try to pursue him. I I went to pursue him,
Pursue who?
the defendant.
Okay. Because what were you expecting Gary to do?
Well, I felt if he was okay, he would re-engage. He would head out the pursuit or move his car or something.
Did his car move?
No, it did not.
Did you approach Gary? Did you drive up to Gary's car?
Yes, I did.
Go ahead and tell us what happened and then where you parked and what happened next.
At that point, I pretty much parked my car almost same proximity as where the defendant's car was, and I get out the car to check on.
Okay, just tell us where was Gary in the car.
At that point, I get out to check on Sergeant Morales to see what his condition was at that point.
And where was he seated? Where was he seated in his vehicle?
In the driver's side.
And how was he positioned? Was he completely in the car? Was he partially out of the car, best as you can recall?
Best as I can recall, he was completely in the car.
And then did you attempt to render first aid?
Yes, I did.
All right, and we hear you call out to roll an ambulance, and during this time, every other law enforcement officer in the county is pursuing the defendant, correct?
That is correct.
And while rendering aid to Sergeant Morales, are you also monitoring where he's going and what he's doing?
Yes, I am.
All right. At some point in time, do you become concerned that he's actually coming back?
Yes.
Okay. And so, based on the radio communications, what do you do?
At that point, so no, after I tried to render aid to Sergeant Morales, I just I was concerned, so I didn't know they hadn't apprehended him yet, so I had to leave Gary for a little bit to go to the trunk of my car and get my shotgun out just in case he returned.
All right. You wanted to have a weapon that was, I guess, more room for error.
Yes.
Okay. Did you see that car again?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and I don't even want you to get down again, but tell me where you saw that car again as you're standing now up here in this area where Gary's vehicle is.
The car came, it was on Canner.
Okay, Canner?
Yes.
Okay.
And it came like right back down
Okay.
on Naylor.
All right.
And then he hooked back out.
Okay.
And then went back on the Canner.
Okay, and did you see law enforcement officers in full pursuit, lights and sirens of the defendant as he fled the scene?
Yes, I did.
All right. Now, at some point in time, does a supervisor arrive on scene, a lieutenant arrive on scene?
Yes, he did.
Okay. I just need to show a diagram and some photographs, and we're going to be done, okay?
Okay.
Judge, if I can have the witness step down, please.
Just for the record, the recording was Exhibit 2 in evidence.
Yeah, and I have it. The recording is 12.
12, I think.
Yes. I want to show you stage 23 first. I don't have to. It's the crime scene diagram. Thank you. Okay. Detective, this is State's Exhibit 23. I want to show you it's a not-to-scale crime scene diagram, but the diagram reflects the presence of vehicle identified as yours. Back here, red pickup truck, Gary's car, and the red car you saw. Does this generally accurately depict the relative relationship between your vehicle, Gary's vehicle, the defendant's vehicle, and as things occurred as you just testified here?
Yes, it does.
At the time you're returning fire on the defendant?
Yes.
Okay, come on up here. I'd offer him down in State's Exhibit 23, Your Honor.
Objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Objection be admitted as States 23 now.
Thanks, Judge. So, Clarence, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put pictures up. It's important that you not stand in front of the screen so the folks in the jury box can see what you're talking about. You just direct me. And, go. First photograph I want to show is State's Exhibit 13. And it's kind of difficult to see, but this is going to be, has been identified as Gary's car down here. And whose car would this be now?
That's my car.
Okay, so this is the scene as it appeared. Obviously, we now know from Detective Wentz there are additional vehicles on scene, but this would be how the cars end up once you approach to render first aid, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Back up here, we see these yellow markers which have been identified as shell casings. Does that look consistent with respect to the distance that you were from the defendant and Gary's car as you were returning fire on the defendant?
Yes.
And this is just another angle. Now we're looking north up Naylor, but again, this would be the area in which you parked your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I need to go back for just 1 second. So when we hear you call out on the dispatch tape at 1:57, shots fired, I think you saw this, and then you get cut off, right? About how long would you estimate it had been since you rolled around that corner on King Orange and were heading north on Naylor? I mean, I know this is an extremely, virtually impossible question, but it's best you had to estimate how much time elapsed between working backwards, the time you call out shots fired, to the time you rolled around that corner.
Couldn't have been more than 30 seconds.
All right. And then next is going to be, I guess that's this is Stage 23 now, the exhibit that's in evidence. And again, for purposes of looking at this diagram, does it generally accurately depict the relative positions of Gary's car, the red car driven by the defendant, and your vehicle during this encounter?
Yes.
Okay. Showing you State's Exhibit 17, and this is going to be now identified as a vantage point looking north on Naylor down towards Sergeant Morales' car. Whose car is this?
That's my car.
Okay, and again, I know we're obviously, given what we've seen in the diagram and where we know the shell casings are, the vantage point that we have in this photograph puts you closer to your vehicle or where the defendant's car was, correct?
Yes, it does.
But would this essentially be a fairly accurate representation of what kind of vantage point you would have in relationship to the events you've testified to?
Yes, it does.
All right. Okay. State's Exhibit 20. Now, this has been identified as Sergeant Morales' car. And what I'd like you to do is to tell, as best you can now, the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, where he was when you first saw him firing towards Sergeant Morales' car. The first time you saw him when you're coming up north on Naylor, where is the defendant standing, as best you can recall? So for the record, you're kind of indicating at where the area where the door opens, right at the door. I guess this is not the door jamb, is it, or is it? Is this the door jamb? What is the outside of the door?
Yes.
Okay. And where would his hand be with respect to the firearm in relationship to that door? Inside, outside?
His hand would have been more to the inside of the door.
Okay. All right. Now, do you have a recollection of how many shots the defendant fired when you could see him? I know you indicated you think you heard some shots. Do you have any recollection of how many shots the defendant fired into the interior of that car when you could see him?
I thought he fired 5 or 6 rounds.
Okay. And did you see any, were they all consistent shots, or were there gaps in between shots, if you recall?
No, it was a rapid succession.
Okay. Now, the defendant turns and begins to head back towards his car where he sees you. Where in this photograph, to the extent you can do it, would you estimate it was that he was at when he identified you coming up the road?
He would have already been past Sergeant Morales' car.
Okay.
And made it about to the rear where my car is, in that general area.
And that's when he turned and engaged you?
Yes.
Okay. Did it appear to be purposeful actions on his part?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Tactical, if you will, in nature?
Yes.
Okay. And as you're firing down on him, he's not just standing there like a statue, right?
No, he's not.
He's moving and trying to acquire you. That's your testimony?
Yes.
All right, I want to show you State's Exhibit 7, which is in evidence. This has been identified now as the vehicle which the defendant was apprehended on February 28th. Do you recognize that car?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you recognize that car?
I just remember it being a red sedan type vehicle.
Okay. And does that look like the car that the defendant entered when he fled the scene of Sergeant Morales' killing?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and take your seat. Okay. Detective, I'm going to show you 2 photographs, and they are marked State's Exhibits 117 and State's Exhibit 118. And I just ask you to look at these for a moment if you would, okay? And as you reflect back to February 28, 2013, as you're coming north on Naylor and you observe the individual you've now identified as defendant shooting into Sergeant Morales' car, do these photographs truly and accurately portray essentially what you observe from your vantage point?
Yes. Yes, they do.
So, Detective, as you sit here today, now some 2.5 years later, is there any doubt in your mind that this is the man you saw shoot into Sergeant Morales' car?
There is no doubt in my mind that that is the man.
Oh, you're right. You had a gun that day, correct?
Yes, I did.
Obviously. Is that a firearm that is standard issued by the department?
Yes, it is.
And I want to show you State's Exhibit 24. We're going to have to open this. And not only is the firearm issued, but do you also utilize ammunition that is provided by your agency?
Yes, we do.
And is that because you have to? That's pursuant to policy?
Yes.
What kind of firearm did you carry with you on February 28, 2013?
A Glock 21, which is a 45 caliber gun.
I just want to show you what's in State's Exhibit 24. When the lieutenant arrived on scene, Lieutenant Dietrich, at some point in time, did you turn your firearm over when you advised him that you had shot?
I did turn my firearm over.
Okay. Is that standard procedure anytime there's a law enforcement involved shooting?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And again, I show you State's 24. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, is this your firearm?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you said it's a 45 caliber. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how many rounds do you load this weapon with at the beginning of every shift?
14 rounds.
Okay. How many rounds go in the magazine?
There are 13 rounds in the magazine, and you put one in the chamber.
Okay. For a total of 14 rounds.
That is correct.
And the bullets that are contained within this exhibit, are these the bullets that you are also required to utilize on duty with the sheriff's office?
Yes.
And I think they've been described as like spear bonded bullets or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. When, Your Honor, at this time we'd offer into evidence State's Exhibit 24.
Objection or dire from the defense?
No.
Without objection, be admitted as State's 24 in evidence.
With respect to your firearm,
I'm sorry. Let me make sure we mark the card there so I don't lose track of it.
Again, Detective, with respect to your firearm, this is the firearm that you would have returned fire on the defendant with on the 28th, as we just testified to, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And again, on that day when you went on duty, how many rounds was this firearm loaded with?
It was loaded with 14 rounds.
We just have one more minute, Judge. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Glynn?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Glenn, can you turn on the mic?
Deputy, let me take you back to when we first went down King Orange, okay?
Okay.
Now, call had already come over the radio about a traffic stop, right?
That is correct.
And you're heading down King Orange in the direction of Muir and Naylor.
Are you talking prior to the traffic stop, or?
Well, I'm talking about as you're coming to back up
Okay.
the Morales, okay?
Okay.
So as you're headed toward the Morales' location, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yes, I am.
Now, you go down King Orange, and you reach the corner of Naylor and King Orange, right?
That is correct.
Now, you had your lights and siren activated at that point.
Yes, I did.
You reached the corner of Naylor and King Orange, and you heard what you thought were 5 gunshots.
Maybe a few rounds. I didn't have a precise number.
Okay, all right. Now, would you say at least 4 to 5 gunshots?
Maybe, I think I recall maybe 3 to 4.
You're not sure?
I'm not it couldn't have been, all I recalled hearing was no more than 3 to 4.
Okay. But you did hear at least 3 or 4 gunshots at the time you arrived at the corner of King Long and Nail.
That is correct.
Now, you're trained law enforcement. You had over 10 years of experience at this point, correct?
Are we talking now or when I was during that time?
This happened, you had 9, 10 years of experience.
I had about nine years of experience at that time.
So we can rely on the fact that you were pretty accurate in the thing I heard was sounded like gunshots.
Yes.
You make the right-hand turn onto Nail.
Yes.
You're traveling at a pretty decent clip. Would you agree, speed-wise?
Yes. Well, at that time, I would have had to slow down to hit the curve because you can't hit it at an accelerated speed. So at that point, I would have had to slow down to turn.
Okay. But once you actually got around the corner, you would, of course, start accelerating again.
Yes.
Now, in front of you, at this point, you see someone running towards the Morales' car.
Yes.
And you are just on the Nail at this point. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes, I was.
All right. Person's running up at the Morales' car. You don't see a gun yet.
At that point, no, I don't. I didn't see the gun.
The person gets closest to Sergeant Morales' car, and then you see the gun and extended arm.
Yes.
Okay. You've already told us that you saw the shots fired inside the doorway.
Yes.
Now, just so we're clear, you see the shots being fired. You are what, 100, 200 feet away at this point?
At least.
Okay. You're seeing the shots being fired. Do you continue driving or do you stop?
When I see the shots being fired, I'm still driving at that point.
Okay. I think you've already told us you believe you saw 7 or 8 shots fired at the car side? Or less?
I believe I said I saw 7 to 8 shots.
So the person that was shooting Sergeant Morales, you're confident you saw about 7 or 8 shots when he's standing by the car?
Yes.
Now, I know this is difficult for you, and I'm not trying to make it more difficult than it has to be, okay? Sergeant Morales was your friend, right?
Yes.
He was also your supervisor.
Yes.
Now, granted, when you see this happening, you become angry, or do you become upset? How would you describe it?
At that point, as I'm seeing that happen, I'm still processing everything that I'm seeing because I can't allow my emotions to get the better part of me in order for me to effectively do my job. So at that point, I'm really just processing everything that I'm seeing to be able to understand what I need to do.
Go ahead.
No.
So you're telling me at that point you don't have any emotion at all?
Like I said, I was processing it. I had no anger. I wasn't upset because I'm still trying to, at that point, I'm still processing what I'm seeing because I can't believe what I'm seeing. So I didn't really have an emotion to put on it because at that point, I still have a job to do and I don't know everything that's going on at this point, and I'm trying to. I know what I'm seeing, but at the same token, I have to do my job so that I could resolve the issue.
Okay. Fair enough. And at this point, you're back up, right?
That is correct.
And at this point, because of what you're doing, part of your job is to try and protect Sergeant Morales. Would you agree?
And the citizens as well, but also Sergeant Morales, of course.
I understand, but Sergeant Morales is being shot at, so part of your job is to try and defend him.
Yes.
Okay. Your car comes to a stop, and you open the door and you get out. And you step to the left of the door. You agree?
Yes.
And you aim. You agree?
Yes, I did.
And you start firing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at this point, the person that is shooting Sergeant Morales is at the back of Sergeant Morales' car. Would you agree?
While are you asking me, was he there when I started shooting?
When you started shooting, the person that you're shooting at was at the back of Sergeant Morales' car. Yes or no?
No, he was not.
Where would you say he was?
I would say he was behind the red car.
Now, at the time he is by his own car, you engaged in him. Would you agree? He's still shooting at you.
Yes.
And you shot at him several times.
Apologize. Several times as, well, I don't know what your definition of several.
Okay. Let's put it this way. You shot at him more than twice.
Yes, yes, I did. Thank you.
You shot at him more than 4 times.
Yes.
Okay. And you even hit his car while shooting at him.
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Now, you shooting at him, he's no longer by Sergeant Morales' car, he's by his own car, right?
Yes.
And you're shooting at him, and you told us that you believe that he was trying to acquire you in his dice.
Yes.
And you're telling us that he was pointing a gun down at you and trying to aim.
Yes.
He did not actually fire at you that you're aware of.
I'm not aware at that point. Auditory exclusion had kicked in, so I could barely even hear my own rounds.
Okay. So as far as you know, he did not fire at you.
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. You were firing at him first, right?
To my knowledge, I don't know if I shot the first round or not.
Well, he's running back towards his car. As you start firing, you're not going to let him get a round off. Do you agree with me?
Are we talking about when he was getting ready to retreat or when he first ran from Sergeant Morales' car?
I'm talking about when he's leaving Sergeant Morales and going back to the red car.
Okay. When he went back to the red car, he stopped in front of the red car and he started aiming down his sights at me with his gun.
Okay.
And at that point, that's when I jumped out my car, and then that's when I engaged him with my firearm.
Okay. So, let me ask you again. As far as you're aware, he never got a shot off at you. As far as you know, right?
I don't know. I just don't know.
But you do know that you got a shot off in his direction.
Yes, I do know that.
You know you got 2, 3, 4 shots off in his direction.
That is correct.
Okay. While he's standing by his car.
That is correct. But he wasn't just standing. He was aiming his sights. Well, he was aiming his gun down at me at that point.
Where was he standing? I want to be clear when he first started pointing the gun at you.
He would have been standing like almost towards the center of his car, the red car.
Okay. All right. You sure about that?
Yes.
Deposition, gentlemen. Page 19, line 14 to 21. Deputy Bennett, remember coming in and talking with me back on November 6th of 2013?
Yes, I do.
You, me, Mr. Backett sat down and we talked about what happened on February 28th of 13, right?
Yes.
You took an oath to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
Same oath that you took today?
Yes.
I asked you to tell me in as much detail as you could what you experienced, what you saw and heard.
Yes.
I want you to take a look at this and read it to yourself, okay? Page 19, line 14 to 21.
For the record, I asked to be also be allowed to read past that into page 20 to put the entire statement into context.
Can you read what he needs to read? Go ahead, officer.
That's fine, Joe. You can do this. Go ahead. Thank you, Detective. On the date, Detective, I asked you this question. Where was he standing relative to Sergeant Morales' car when he first taking aim at you? Is he, in other words, by the trunk of the car? Is he by the side of the car? Do you recall? Your answer was he would have been closer, like he would have been closer to the trunk. He would have been closer to that area of Sergeant Morales' car. Remember telling me that?
Yes, I do.
Now, let's go back to the positioning of a car, okay? You're looking down narrow terrace. Would you agree with me that the red car is on the right-hand side and Sergeant Morales' car is on the left-hand side as you're looking down narrow terrace?
Yes.
Do you possibly ever remember being different than that? In other words, let me rephrase the question. I didn't answer very well. Is it possible that the cars were in a different position than what you just said?
No, they were not.
Gentlemen, statement given 2:28 or 1:55 p.m. Deputy Bennett, on February the 28th of 2013, after all this happened, you were removed from active duty, and everyone involved was. Would you agree?
That is correct.
And as part of that after-action investigation, 2 detectives from your agency interviewed you about what happened.
That is correct.
You remember giving that interview to them?
Yes, I do.
You remember being voluntary in nature?
Sorry.
You remember being voluntary in nature? In other words, they didn't make you do it.
That is correct.
And do you remember taking notes to tell the truth during that interview?
Yes, I do.
I want to show you a transcript of that interview on February 28th. Particularly, you can look above and below it if you want, but I want you to particularly look at page 6, line 254 to 258. Thank you, Deputy. In this particular interview, you said, but when I got up there, it was like the vehicle, Sergeant Morales' vehicle, were kind of in the middle. But the suspect vehicle looked like it was kind of just to the left of Sergeant Morales' vehicle. Now, after Mr. Tisdale gets in his car and drives off, you move from your spot up to where Mr. Tisdale was parked.
That is correct.
Thank you, Deputy. I don't have any further questions.
McAdolly, redirect.
I do. Detective Bennett, you said, quote, you couldn't believe what you were seeing.
That is correct.
It was unbelievable what you were seeing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is. Yes, it was.
And about, I don't know, let's 1:55 p.m., 4 or 5 hours after you witnessed the murder of your sergeant, you gave a statement to law enforcement.
That is correct.
And you screwed up and said that...
I'm going to object. We need to oppose. We've had the conversation before.
I'll rephrase the question. Several hours after the killing of your... eyewitnessing the killing of your sergeant, you gave a statement to law enforcement, and you made a mistake and said that the defendant's car was to the left of Sergeant Rouse. Is that it?
That is correct.
I didn't get to ask you this question, but sir, are you human?
Yes, I am.
Lynn, anything else?
Nothing additional needed.
Okay. Thank you, officer, very much. Step down. Watch your step, please.
You would be released, Your Honor.
I'm here for the defense to release him if he wants to go. Officer, you're free to go if you wish. You're welcome to stay if you wish. Okay. Just watch your step over those wires.
Yes. I do want to say that not to be disrespectful. I may need to recall him later if something happens, just so he knows, and if I do, it'll be 2 minutes, okay?
Leave a number where they...
Not today, but if we do.
Leave a number where they can reach you. I'll call your next witness.
State calls Deputy Nathaniel Stubler.
Folks, we'll stop in about 15 minutes, so just bear with me.
Yes, yes, sir, please. Deputy, just watch your step. Stand here, facing me, Madam Clerk. Could you please raise your hand to be sworn?
Do you swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Just watch your step.
Right there to your left, watch your step.
Just watch your step. Sure.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Detective Nate Stubley, St. Lucie Sheriff's Office.
And if you can spell your last name for us?
Stubley.
And you said you're a detective with the Sheriff's Office, is that right?
That's right.
How long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
Since early 2013.
And you mentioned your current assignment as detective?
Correct.
We'll stick to within the Sheriff's Office at this point. What have your assignments been within the Sheriff's Office?
I worked patrol. I worked as part of the STAR team, and now as part of the as a detective in the Special Investigations Unit.
Now, do you have any experience in law enforcement before coming to the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir, I do.
Could you please outline that to the members of the jury?
I've worked for the Fort Pierce Police Department, and after that, the Port St. Lucie Police Department before making my way to the Sheriff's Office.
At Fort Pierce, how long were you at Fort Pierce?
I was there since '08 to about 2012.
And then you had a very short stay with Port St. Lucie.
That's correct.
Now, on February 28, 2013, how long had you been with the Sheriff's Office?
A matter of just a few weeks. Thanks.
And how were you assigned that day?
I was patrol operations as part of a proactive patrol unit.
And as being new with the Sheriff's Office, did you have any kind of special assignment as far as that goes, being a new deputy?
I was still in the FTO process, which is typical for any new hire coming to an agency.
Explain to the folks what FTO is.
The field training process is basically you would ride as a new police officer or deputy with an experienced field training officer to critique and offer guidance and meet the criteria set forth by the department before you're finally released on your own to answer calls for service.
So being in the FTO program that morning, was there another deputy with you?
That's correct.
And who was with you?
Detective, at the time, Deputy Matt Briglia.
And who was your supervisor that day?
Sergeant Gary Morales.
Had you, as a group, gotten together that morning as part of your regular duties when you come onto the job, as you come onto the shift?
We had.
And if you could explain to the members of the jury what that process was that morning, how you all met and what went on.
Well, we met as typical as part of a briefing, if that's what you're referring to, the roll call.
Yes, sir, so let's start there.
We met in the morning, as usual, as part of the briefing, like I said. We briefly touched on some of the recent crime trends in some of the neighborhoods afflicted in our county. We discussed possibly some information regarding burglaries or stolen vehicles, and it was probably 10 minutes, which is typical for a briefing.
And was there anything special decided that y'all were going to do that day?
Yes, there was. Burglaries in the Silver Lake Estates neighborhood had become a problem.
So what were you going to do?
We were given directed enforcement in that neighborhood, looking for anything suspicious and to curtail the problem.
And what kind of things would you do to make your presence seen and to get an idea of who was in the neighborhood?
Essentially, the patrol units, myself included, would saturate the area and patrol it, stop anybody that was observed committing any sort of a traffic infraction, anyone who was suspicious. Our goal was to make our presence known, and as I said earlier, to curtail the ongoing burglaries, which had become kind of a problem in that neighborhood.
And that morning, did you make traffic stops in that vein, seeing a minor traffic violation, make a stop?
I did, yes.
That morning, were you on one of those stops when you heard that there was another stop going on in that neighborhood?
Yes, sir, I was.
And that stop being made by Sergeant Morales?
Correct.
Where were you when you heard that?
I was near the intersection of South 7th Street and Farmers Market.
And you heard that there was a chase?
That's correct, yes, a traffic stop and then a chase.
And you were in that area of Farmers Market and 7th. What did you do?
As soon as I heard what had been happening, that the attempt at a traffic stop, as initiated by Sergeant Morales, had turned into a vehicle chase, I immediately dropped what I was doing on my own traffic stop at Farmers Market and South 7th, gave the driver his info back, and returned my car rapidly and sped to that area in an effort to assist with the pursuit.
Now, as you were headed to that area, what did you hear? Did you hear a call from Deputy Bennett on the radio?
Yes, eventually, when I was en route to that location, I heard Bennett's transmission via radio, yes.
And that was that shots were fired?
Correct.
And based on the radio conversation that you'd already heard, you had a description for a vehicle?
That's correct.
And where were you when you were hearing, when you heard that transmission about shots fired?
It all happened very quickly. I was, as I said, I got back in my car, my patrol car. I sped out away from my traffic stop in an effort to catch up and get into the immediate area of the incident that was unfolding. And I was somewhere on South 7th Street, just north of the intersection of Farmers Market, when I heard the radio transmissions.
And did you see a vehicle that met the description that you understood was involved in the chase and the shots being fired?
Yes, sir, I did.
Where were you when you saw the vehicle?
On South 7th Street, perhaps in the 3200 block.
And what did you see?
I saw a red Toyota driven by a black male.
And what was it doing?
It was traveling at a high rate of speed out of the immediate area, as indicated by the radio traffic.
What road was the red car on?
Pulled out right in front of me on South 7th Street.
Do you know what road he was turning from?
I don't recall off the top of my head, no.
Okay. What did you said he was driving fast?
Correct.
And and turned which direction on 7th?
Northbound.
What'd you do?
I recognized the vehicle as fitting the description, and I activated my overhead emergency lights on my fully marked patrol car, as well as my siren, and the subject at that point fled from me as well, also at a high rate of speed.
When you say fully marked, does your patrol car have your agency insignia on it?
It does.
And clearly say sheriff on both sides?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you had overhead lights?
Correct.
And you said your siren as well?
Siren, lights, yep.
What did the car do?
As I said, the car fled, proceeded northbound away from me with myself and Deputy Briglia in pursuit, and then turned eastbound on Glenview, where I continued to pursue.
Now, as you were heading east on Glenview, what was coming up ahead of the red car?
In front of the red car, which, as I said, was going eastbound, you had rush hour traffic. 9:28, I believe, in the morning was the approximate time. US 1 would have been the main thoroughfare there, and that's what we were approaching at that point.
And was there heavy traffic out in front of you on US 1?
Yes, absolutely.
What did you see next?
The driver of the red car decided to, after entering the intersection at US 1, decided to make an abrupt U-turn and travel back westbound, ultimately on Glenview again.
What did you do?
As the driver was attempting to make his U-turn, I was addressing him as a threat and trying to exit my own police car, my sheriff's office patrol car, and I was having a difficult time as things were happening and transpiring very quickly, unholstering my weapon and identifying the threat as at that point he was passing back by me. As I said, he made a U-turn. Ultimately, with the civilians in the background, I ended up opting to get back in my car, make a U-turn myself, and continue the pursuit.
Now, you mentioned that you stopped your car and got out. Why did you do that?
Because at that point it wasn't clear whether he was going to go north or south, or if he was going to stop and perhaps bail out on foot due to the great deal of traffic that was in the area. It appeared that he was slowing down to the point where I needed to actually get out of my car. Then, as I said, he opted to turn around and drive back in my direction, westbound, and I needed to, at that point, address him as a threat.
And was there a safety reason for getting out of your car once he was coming back towards you?
Yes.
Explain that.
I didn't know if he was actually going to hit my car, if I needed to get out. There were a lot of uncertainties there at that point.
Would you have been able to shoot or return fire if you were sitting in the driver's seat?
No.
So as you had your firearm drawn and the red car was coming towards you, what happened?
As I said, the red car did come at me and then ultimately passed me. I got back in my car and then made the same U-turn and reinitiated the pursuit.
And did you see the person driving the red car then?
Yes, I did. I was very close to him.
And did he see you?
He did.
Do you see that person here in court?
I do.
Could you please point to him and describe something he's wearing so we all know who you're talking about?
He's the man seated right there, wearing a red tie, and he has a shaved head now.
Second person in?
Second person in.
Record reflect, Your Honor, he's pointed to and described the defendant here in court today.
Yes, sir. While we're here, Mr. Eisner, I promised the jury a break about 3, so let me let them take a quick break and we can finish up with this testimony. Okay? All right, folks, as advertised, I'll let y'all take a break. Please don't discuss the case among yourselves. Allow anyone to discuss in your presence. We'll have you back shortly. Mr. Kirby, if you want to go downstairs and smoke, let them know. They'll take you downstairs. Okay? You can leave your pads there for you. They'll be there for you when you come back. we'll go off the record for just a quick break.